I talked coaching staff yesterday and the investment this program needs to make. Is this staff right now good enough? We're going to talk staff, quarterbacks, and more with Justin Julka on the show. Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, and thank you for getting us there. I'm your host, Ryan Harings. We got Justin Julka over there. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, if you want to get in the middle of the action this season, head over to FanDuel.com, place your live NFL bets all season long. Today's episode, we got some of your questions from the Discord. Total amount of transfers in and out, just a guess, fit or talent at the quarterback spot in the portal. What are you going after the most? And then we're going to start here, Justin, because I did a show about the staff yesterday, and you kind of pinged me and said I would like to talk about this too. The crux of my show was if you're going to spend money, and we were talking so much about spend on players, spend on recruiting, then you also have to invest in the staff.
Yeah, absolutely. My first thought on it there was only pushback I said when you said top quarter for staff. I'm like, those numbers are getting so ridiculous right now. I'm like, I don't agree with, like, what was it? Signetti's up to like 17 million or something. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, he's not even going to use all that kind of money. I'm like, but I do think there is something to be said for Wisconsin getting into that 10-11 range and saying, we do not want financials to be the reason why we don't get a coach that we really want at a certain position. And I think that that's what you're looking at. You have guys who I do not think are the top tier at their current, position that they're coaching right now. And I think you need to go out and get guys that you feel that way, because it's not just talent on this roster. I think you'd agree with me. We're not seeing the coaching is not there at certain spots. There are areas that seem lacking. There are areas. Safety this last year was rough. Like, I watched the play at that position. You had Austin Brown, who's been playing now for 3 years, and he was probably a below average Big Ten starter. Matt Young obviously was taking a massive step up, but he did not look ready to play at this level. And I would say that corner was another position where you looked at it and you're like, we see guys that are true freshmen on other teams come in and play, or redshirt freshmen, and it not be like, oh my God. Wisconsin was not strong in the secondary this year. They were pretty rough across the board. They looked substantially better when the pass rush upticked through the roof, but they were a problem. Like, the secondary was not able to cover at a level that is appropriate for high-level college football. And the recruiting department, just to get on that, you made the comment that we needed to get a guy for Ethan's position, which is clear. It seems like that position is more just personnel. I don't know how much interaction he actually had with people in general. But if you're going to have somebody whose real job is just crunching film, go get an NFL guy. Get somebody from a front office, overpay him, and just be like, you're going to come in, you're going to be our personnel guy for the portal. And your whole job is going to be amassing a board for us and looking through rosters and putting grades on these guys and saying, hey, if this guy hits the portal, he is somebody we have to target. And I want somebody who is legitimately a professional at that. Those guys in the NFL have been doing it for a decade plus. I don't care if he's 50 years old. I get somebody who is a stud at doing that and can break it down and be like, here's what I like about him. Here's his limitations. Here's how he fits into what we want to do. And I don't want, no offense to Ethan, I don't want somebody who's 20-something doing that job. I want somebody who can really look at the warts on a player and be like, is this something this guy can overcome? When you get NFL guys who are crunching for an entire year on these guys, they will sit there and be able to point out everything that they hate and how they feel like it fits into what their scheme is going to be. Do they think they can hide it? Will it work? And that's something that I feel like is not something you're going to find with a ton of young personnel guys. They don't have the reps under them to be able to look at it from that perspective.
You need a film nerd.
Yeah.
You need a film nerd who's 47 years old and wants to spend 8 hours a day in the basement in a dark living room with 7 Mountain Dews and a bunch of popcorn and just watch film all day. And there's two very different roles in that recruiting department, right? There is the player facing. You need great guys like Pat Lambert, Max Steinecker, who are great at making relationships and connecting to kids. And to your point, I think it's a great one, man. You also need a guy who has been watching film his whole life, and that's all he does to find those fits in the portal.
And as you said, we need two studs. Like, go out there and get some guys who are legitimately have a reputation of connecting with recruits. Max was one of those guys. We saw the effect that USC amassing a ton of front office talent had on that school. They had the #1 recruiting class in the country. That was in no small part due to the fact that they got a bunch of guys who were thought of as the best of the best in college at that position. So they were extremely good at building relationships with recruits and being able to establish what they needed to get the guys that they wanted. So you need to find some of those guys that have that type of energy and like that chemistry with recruits to be able to get you a step above everybody else.
And we talked about this when Max left, by the way. We said, hey, Max is really good at what he does. He's not irreplaceable, but you got to go find someone else who's also really good at what they do. You can't replace an A+ recruiter with a C+ recruiter. You got to find another stud.
Yeah.
Listen, Pat Lambert is awesome. Like, recruits still rave about him. He's awesome, but
he can't be everywhere.
He needs a Max Steinecker with him, and they got to go out and spend money to do that. On your point with the secondary, I'm not as down on Coach Cooper and the safeties, only because you lost Preston Zachman, and with Austin Brown, it's possible Austin Brown was never going to be a good player because some guys look like Tarzan and they never play like Tarzan.
So the one thing I will say about Cooper, and I'm not saying that he's a bad coach, but I'm saying you're Wisconsin. Put together a staff that is commensurate with where you're located in college football. And until a few years ago, Wisconsin was a top 15 program. And if that's the way you're going to do it, then I expect a top 15 coaching staff.
Yeah,
Cooper's a guy who should be getting his reps in Group of 5 somewhere, and getting his coaching like acumen put together. He's not somebody Wisconsin should be like letting get his ears wet.
I think it's fair to say if you think there's a young coach that you think is a star, but it can't be because of money. It can't be because we're hiring this guy because of money.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, if you think he's like incredible at what he does, and I'm not saying that he's not, I'm just saying the results on the field from the safety position this year were not great.
Yeah, it was a rough spot. And let's be honest too, Justin, this is a problem in Wisconsin that extends back to Bielema. Bielema couldn't pay assistant coaches.
It probably was Barry. It just, I don't know if it's necessarily put out publicly.
Yeah. This program for a long time has gone skimpy on the coaching pool, the assistant pool, and we've lost coaches all the time because of that. Bielema left partially because he couldn't pay coaches here. Gary Anderson talked about it. Paul Christ had some issues. Some of Paul Christ hires, you think those were his first choices? Well, actually, for Paul Christ, they may have been. I'm sorry. Al Johnson probably was his first choice. But yeah, let's not reopen that book. And Coach Christ did a bunch of great stuff.
Speaking of not paying enough for a position. Listen, he's probably a good offensive line coach. He's probably good, run game coordinator. And I think he was a head coach before he came here. That's not a running back coach. And you shouldn't be the guy doing that.
Not at the University of Wisconsin. Bobby Ingram is OC quarterbacks coach. We can go on and on. But my point is, this has been a reckoning for a while. And it's time that Wisconsin puts more emphasis on. And again, it's not if you think you have a young star, hire him. But don't hire somebody because it's the most economical thing, which I think at times Wisconsin still does a little bit of, unfortunately. They got to invest there. And we talk about this all the time. Spend on players. You got to spend for the best coaching because that's part of what Indiana is.
And that's what I was going to say is it's really hard to get guys in the portal that are going to be top tier at their position. To me, you get more value from top level coaches than you get from being able to go out and spend ridiculous amounts of money on top level players, because they could come in and not be great, but a coach who's a great coach is probably going to find somebody in his room who's going to end up being a good player or at least be solid to good for you. And that is something that is much harder to find. And we've seen it. Like sometimes coaches are good for 5 years somewhere and they lose it. Like it's not something that's that easy to find, is getting a bunch of stud coaches.
And a stud coach Well, we'll use Bob Bostad as an example. A stud coach can make 10 to 12 players on the roster better. And that's a much bigger impact than bringing in one stud. I think that's a really good point that you bring up. What quarterback would Justin take? That's next to Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Rocket Money. Do you ever feel like maybe managing your money is really difficult? Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account go do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. They don't quite match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity. It helps you track every dollar and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. One of my favorite things about Rocket Money is it automatically builds budgets based on your past spending. It's like somebody that already knows you, so you don't have to do a ton of work trying to figure out, well, how much did I do here and how much money did I spend at the gas station there? And for me, it's way more money at that gas station than it should be. But Rocket Money can already help build some of those trends, which makes your life easier. Again, it shouldn't be a second job managing your money. That's where Rocket Money comes in, saving money and putting all your spending onto one dashboard. So it makes it really simple, really easy, really efficient to track your money. And going into next year, maybe that's a goal. Be a little bit better with our money. Rocket Money can help you get there. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, let's jump back into the show with Justin. Let's talk that most important spot on the field that the Badgers have rarely been able to solve. Who's your number one guy right now?
There's a number one guy who's not going to happen, and there's a number one guy for Wisconsin.
Why won't the number one guy happen? I know who your number one guy is, by the way.
It's Sorsby. Two things there. Number one, he is going to be able to pick from whoever he wants. To me, he is number one with a bullet. It's not close. He is a guy that if Indiana gets him, which they're supposed to be in the running for him too, that they're a playoff team probably again if they can fill in around him the way they should with Cignetti, because he's probably not Fernando Mendoza, but he's probably like Mendoza being an A+, he's probably like an A-. Like he's an NFL quarterback. He's a guy who's probably like a 4th or 5th rounder right now in the NFL draft. Maybe that for him is not enough. He might want to get into those top 3 rounds. He was really good. I watched him when he played against Kansas this year, and they could not stop him. He just carved them up, and it was chunk yardage left and right. The guy is going to be really good for whoever he plays for next year. And to me, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, like I said, he can pick whoever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I just don't see value there for you to chase somebody that's that caliber unless you feel like we can make a run at this. And the rest of this roster is not at that point where you can say, if we get him and 2 or 3 other guys, suddenly we're a playoff team.
Yeah.
And I think that is massively an issue when you look at the expenditure, because if Indiana has to pay him 4 or 5, we would probably have to pay him 6. And you're definitely losing some other players. I talked to Rajiv on Sunday, and when I said in the Discord too, this team probably needs 15 contributors.
Oh, easily.
You probably need 20. Like, I know it's one of the upcoming things we're going to talk about. You probably need 25 guys. 15 of those have to be guys that are a part of what you're doing next year. Like, we're not talking about storing guys and developing them for a year down the road. They have to be able to play. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money if you're looking at that. And we talked about it. I said it's going to probably cost us 30 to 35 million to be able to really put this team together to where it is. I think the schedule next year is really, the more I look at it, looks like a schedule that I feel really good about if you get the pieces in line. And you have a chance to win more games than people are expecting if you get the pieces.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot that needs to be done. I think you're dead on. I think they need 15-ish guys. They don't need 15 starters, but they need 15 guys who are going to be in the 2 deep.
You probably need 7 or 8 starters, and then you need guys who are going to be in that 2 deep that are capable of going in and playing at a level that is not a huge drop off from the guys who are your starters.
Yeah, you need a ton. Which again, and here I'll give you 2 teams that I've heard linked to Sorsby. I've heard Indiana as well. So you're talking about a team that is one of the best teams in the country, who's just developed a Heisman Trophy quarterback. Or Texas Tech is the other one I've heard, who spends more money than friggin' anybody.
And is also a playoff team.
They spend more money than Google. Like, so if those are options he has on the table, as much as we want to talk about Wisconsin's opening up the checkbook, Texas Tech has opened up the oil pipeline. Yeah. There's a difference.
I also wanted to hit on your other point, which you talked about Dylan Raiola.
Oh, please no. Yeah.
And when you mentioned that, I was like, listen, I may have to stop watching Wisconsin football if that's the guy we pick. Like I have a hatred for him, just like everything he represents as a player.
Never liked him.
I don't like what he represents. Like he's had an arrogance about him that was not earned since he set foot in the college game. And I just look at it and I'm like, this guy, when I talk about the guys that you look for in the portal, that if you're going to get the type of money he'll probably end up getting, which doesn't deserve, he to me is not a guy that goes to, like, I don't think a true playoff contender is going to take him. And I think it's going to be because they're going to look at the film. They're going to be like, listen, we get into the top half of the playoff games. The guy that we bring in for that has to be able to make 4 to 5 NFL throws a game to win us this game. I don't see enough of those type of throws from Dylan Raiola.
Yeah.
And that is not, like, he's a good college quarterback. There's no shame in that. But I don't look at him and say, this guy's what is his ceiling? Like 5th or 6th round quarterback in the NFL?
You know who he is to me? He's Drew Aller. He's a very similar guy to Drew Aller.
And I actually think that Drew Aller was better, but
maybe, but they're the same tier for me.
But yes, they are. They're a guy I look at who keeps getting talked about for the NFL, and you're like, this guy's not an NFL quarterback. Like I guarantee you that guys in the NFL they're number one, they're probably laughing at all the stuff that he's doing to try and look like what's his name?
Holmes.
Yeah. But the level of skill set difference between those two is so like bipolar, it's unbelievable. Like he's not in the same stratosphere of talent as what Mahomes is.
And the other thing is you're chasing reputation. You're chasing recruiting stars. You're not chasing fit. You're not chasing mobility. You're not chasing the things you actually need. You just get him to get a name. And I've heard a couple people say, well, go get Raiola because he has presence and because he's going to he's going to bring other receivers.
That's fluff. You don't need that garbage.
It's nonsense. I think that you need a quarterback who's friggin' healthy. He's not even healthy.
We don't need top tier wide receivers. I don't know why people keep getting their head stuck on this, that we need to go out and get $1 million plus receivers. If you get a good quarterback, we've seen this with Indiana all year. Indiana's not loaded with a bunch of top shelf wide receiver talent.
They got a couple dudes though. I might disagree with you.
They do. Surratt is a legit dude. And I think that the other guy who came in when he was injured, he was nothing before this season. Like he started playing when Surratt got injured. And then he had a couple of big games and he played really well. I like him as a player, but it's not like he had pedigree coming into the season. Like he's a guy they developed. But what I will say is, with regards to how this needs to play out, you need to get some guys who are just legitimately good tacticians at the wide receiver position. And you need a guy who is a dude at quarterback. Because he'll raise their level of play. It's kind of like the Green Bay Packers, everyone that used to watch them. Green Bay never had top 5 wide receivers on their team, but they had a top 5 quarterback, and he made those receivers look really good. So
I might push back on this point a little bit. I
just don't think you're going to get those guys regardless of whoever you get at quarterback.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a different question almost, but I do think this team needs a player who, when we play a better secondary. Think the Ohio States, Michigans, the Penn States, USCs, the Oregons. They need a guy who can threaten tough man-to-man press defense.
And I think that you and I would agree on this, that isn't necessarily going to be somebody who is really blown up in the portal. Like that guy could be a guy who is in the portal but isn't necessarily viewed in that regard. Like there are so many wide receivers that are quality wide receivers that don't get that type of press. That's typically reserved for guys who are coming from another Power 4 top level program. And it's like, well, this guy was a composite 95 or whatever at Florida. And now he's back in the portal and, somebody's going to get him and he's got all these athletic tools. There are a lot of guys who don't have jump off the screen athletic tools who are good enough to carve up quality secondaries. You still have to have talent, but it may not be like this guy is we've seen guys step up from group of 5 who are really good at that. We've seen guys step up from a division down who are really good at that and end up being a good player. They're out there. They don't have a name in college yet, but the ability's there. You've got to crunch the film and find those guys.
Which goes back to our first point to find somebody that's always crunching the film 24/7, 365. I still think, though, I hear your point. You can get some tacticians. You can get some guys who are underdeveloped. You can get a lot of good players that a quarterback will raise their level. I agree with all of that. I still think ultimately, if you're going to be a really good team and a really good offense, you need an alpha at receiver who can, quite frankly, physically just beat people.
Do you think that guy's going to be there, though?
Well, you got to find a way for it to be there. Otherwise, really good teams find that guy, right? You can't continue to win if you don't have a dude that.
Well, my point, I think, is that if Wisconsin finds them, it's not going to be because they got a quarterback. Like, that guy is not going to be like, it's going to be because they did their due diligence and found somebody who they saw something in, who turns into that when he gets into the system and is out there. And to be fair, in some regards, that could have been a guy like Ballard this year who just the quarterback play was so atrocious. I'm not going to say that he would have been great. There were warts on him, and we saw it during the season. There were times where effort level wasn't there, but I don't necessarily hold that totally against a receiver when you have a quarterback that's just the level of play just isn't there. And it gets really frustrating for a receiver you just assume that it's not going to happen. And it didn't for the bulk of the season. He could have been a 700-yard guy this year if we had average quarterback play.
He definitely got missed a couple times, and it is really hard to evaluate receivers with the quarterback play we've had. But he also, he had some moments too where it's like, dude, run your routes a little crisper, catch the ball.
And absolutely. And I'm not giving him a pass, but I'm saying those guys are out there, and he wasn't somebody who was necessarily like, there were physical tools there that the effort level had to be there, and his numbers would have been substantially better had he had it. Now, do I think he was a guy who could have carved up at a top level team? Probably not, but he did have a touchdown catch against Alabama.
Yeah, I think he could have been a good number 2 or number 3, and it's just hard to develop him with the quarterback play we had. Your questions next, including, do we have a basketball problem? That's next with Justin. But first, let me tell you about our great friends over at Wayfair. The holidays always seem to come faster, at least for me. They seem to come faster than we expect. And if you're still putting together gifts, this guy, a last-minute decor, getting your house ready for guests, also this guy, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, new bedding, or those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. Wayfair truly is your one-stop shop for everything home, decor, furniture, kitchen essentials, gifts for every single style, every budget, all delivered quickly and easily. I love Wayfair, for a lot of reasons, but I love it that the selection's huge. Anything you want, you can get in one spot. I also like that you can filter by a bunch of ways. It makes it really easy to find your style, to pick pieces that you like, pieces that are going to fit your home instead of guessing. And it's perfect for gifting too. They have guides. Again, important for this guy. Tons of options, something for everyone on any budget, and no massive delivery fees, no stress. It's the best way to get your home holiday ready without running around to a bunch of different stores, fighting traffic, being out there in the craziness. Do it from home, coffee, comfy clothes, and get what you need over at Wayfair. Get last-minute hosting essentials, gifts for all of your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. On the previous segment. It was good, though.
I did partially answer it.
Who are your top 3?
So my number 1 guy is obviously Colton Joseph. I think he's got the production, and I think the skill set really fits what Grimes wants to do. I don't think there's anybody out there that I look at that has that combination as well as what he has. I know there's people that are going to hammer him on the fact that he's playing at Old Dominion. There are pluses and minuses to that. I think that the tier of guys around him didn't always do him favors. I think that offense has a lot of shock plays and really throws further downfield, which is partially what affected his both interception totals as well as his completion percentage. I think there's going to be a lot more mesh and stuff like that we do here. That's going to help him get some easy completions and kind of bump that up a little bit. The other 2 guys are, I do like Minchey. I just don't like him more than Joseph. Mm-hmm. I think there is talent there. I understand, and you and I have discussed this. He was doing it at Notre Dame. I think there's talent there. I think he's a guy that I would take a risk on. The issue there is if he has an average season, it's really going to hurt you because you need him to be good next year if you're going to be paying him the kind of money that he's probably going to push for. And then the other guy is not on the portal yet. I'm wondering if the playoff is affecting it. And I would be shocked if Lincoln Keinholz just isn't in there. He's a guy that I think is going to be in the portal, and I probably would put him ahead of even Minchey. I just think the physical tools with him, he's about as close to he probably has better tools than Colton Joseph. He just doesn't have a ton of experience. And he's a guy I look at that was like a 4'6" guy out of high school and has a cannon for an arm. So he has all the physical tools you could want. The question with him was always, is it mentally there? Well, he pushed sand this year at Ohio State. Now, that's always hard to tell what that means at Ohio State because there's so much talent in the practices that he's there. But he's also facing a defense that's really good every day in practice. So if he hits the portal and we don't get Joseph, he's probably the guy I'd want them to go after. And I think that the ability level's there. I think that he would be great in this offense. I think Grimes would really like the skill set, and I think that they would work well together.
I'd be stunned if Keinholz doesn't enter the portal because Sain's not going anywhere. Why wouldn't he? I just think if I'm Luke Fickell, and I really like Lincoln Keinholz, by the way, who the Badgers were in on. I mean, I've done a show on him before when I thought the Badgers maybe had him. I really like him. I just don't think Fickell's going to take a guy that inexperienced. I think,
and that's totally fair. I can see why he wouldn't.
I think he just win for next year. And Keinholz maybe could be the guy. I'm right there with you on Colton Joseph, though. But if it's not Joseph, I also like Minchey. I think they're going to prioritize somebody who has more reps, live game reps.
And we don't know what's all going to be in the portal yet. Like I think our boards would be adjusted if we see, because I think there's going to be 4 or 5 guys that haven't hit yet that are going to be big names. Like that top 10 list is really going to get jumbled up here shortly.
All right, let's do some of these questions here. We might need to speed run some of these. Only reason is as you know, I have to.
Because I don't shut up.
Well, no, I have a shorter window today, unfortunately.
Yes. Let's do this.
Question from Treg, 45. How many plus athletes on the football team right now? Do you think there's enough plus athletes on this team?
As anyone that's listening to the Discord, I take so much crap about this for when I do reviews on players. I think there's quite a few good athletes on this team. I think that right now mentally is where we're falling behind. And from a technique and just development standpoint, there's guys that need to be cleaning up the actual football aspect of things a little bit.
Really quickly, where I look at this, I almost look at the athletic heavy spots. And listen, you got to be a great athlete to be a good defensive lineman. You got to be a great athlete to be a good offensive lineman. But if we're looking on the edges, right, that's a lot of times where athleticism shows up to some degree. Receiver, cornerback. I don't know if there's one plus athlete. If I'm being
a wide receiver, I would say there's not right now.
I don't think there is at corner either. And I like some of the young corners. I don't think there's a plus Big Ten athlete corner.
I think some of the young guys could be there, but they need some physical development, and they haven't been on the field. We have no idea.
Yeah,
like guys like Washington last year, I think with a year in the program could be really good athletically. The question with him is going to be, is he capable of staying on top of what he should be doing with his keys during the game and playing good technique?
I'm just not sure those guys are plus athletes for corners, though. I think they're fine. I think they're good. They have length and physicality, but like Lucas was a plus athlete, not to bring up a dead horse there. Not dead. He's not dead. Brian Shetty, that's us. Brian Shetty, over under 30 total transfers in, over under 20 transfers out. And we're going to count the guys who already have said they're going to leave. I'm over on both these, Justin, by the way. I'm over on 30 and I'm over on 20. I'm over on 30 coming in.
I'm over 25 coming in. I'm not necessarily over 30. I think that it may be between 25 and 30. Leaving, I think over 20 is easy.
I do too. We're not going to get to every question, but that's totally fine. Dominic DM, how concerned are you, basketball team? Do you think guard fixes this year?
So you have brought up some good points on this. I listened to the show, and I'll try to answer this as quick as I can. A lot of the defensive shortcomings, it's not an athletic team, but they cannot be unathletic or not overly athletic and be mental and effort issues on defense. And right now, those are 2 areas that they can attack and get better at. They've got to fix those things. They can become solid defensively. That's light years from where they are right now.
Yeah, I think guard can fix some of it. Unfortunately, I think there's a couple holes Justin
It might be a down year where they just can't get everybody on the same page enough.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, you're going to see this occasionally in the portal where you bring in pieces you feel good about, and then you get to the season, and some of the pieces just don't fit. And Tanjay fit better than anybody thought, right? You're not going to have that every year.
Well, one of them was on the roster who's been a pretty big problem. Like Blackwell came into college as a guy who was thought of as a more defensive-minded guy than a scorer, and he has been – it feels like that went completely – like he's regressed every year defensively.
Yeah, and he really has, man, and I'm a big Blackwell fan, but he's got to be better than this. And a point I made, if you're one of the stars of the team, you're one of the veterans of the team, you're one of the culture guys of the team, you're also, let's be honest, Justin, he's also one of the biggest NIL earners on the team in terms of resources. You got to be better.
You want to be a leader, you need to be the guy that sets the standard, and he's absolutely not setting it.
I agree. And if he turns around, I'll be the first guy to give him his flowers because he is talented enough to be one of the best players in the Big Ten. But defensively, man, he just – I'm telling you right now, it feels like he's not locked in. It feels like it's not even important.
He is going to get – if he's playing for draft position, like he's going to get worse feedback after this season than he got last year. Like they're going to look at this and they're going to be like, you're a chucker. Like the NBA is filled with guys who can score and are more athletic than you that don't play defense. We're not going to take a guy who's limited athletically and doesn't do the little things. Because his role, honestly, if he ever wanted to play NBA, was you need to be a try-hard that's really good defensively and that can hit the occasional three and kind of be low maintenance on the court.
Well, that is in the NBA role form. It's a 3-and-D guy. And in the NBA, if you go look at 3-and-D guys, they play maniacal defense. Like, they're insane. Like, the NBA is impossible to guard people because of the spacing and the skill. But the 3-and-D guys, they're insane athletically and effort-wise defensively. And Blackwell's not even close to that right now. All right, Justin, we got to wrap up here only because I got to drop to go do something else. Otherwise, we could have kept going. I apologize for not every question getting in, but maybe Justin and I will do a wrap-up show with some of these other questions, including – are Justin and I just coping with the loss of Christian Allegro, saying it's not a huge loss? Justin, we might get that one later. We don't have time today. I'm teasing it. That's called the tease.
Maybe I'll answer it in the Discord.
Answered in the Discord. That's a great one. On Wisconsin, thank you everybody for tuning in. Appreciate Justin. Go check out what they're doing. Always him and Rajiv. We will definitely talk to you guys tomorrow.